Tony Randall for Tetley Tea.
I like those tiny little tea leaves in Tetley tea. Know why Tetley tea tastes so good? Because tiny is tastier. As a gourmet, I know that tiny peas and tiny baby lamb chops are the tastiest. The same with tea leaves. The most flavorful are the tiny young leaves packed into Tetley tea bags. So, for rich, refreshing tea, hot or iced, I drink Tetley because tiny is tastier.
Well, George, you just told me your age. You want to tell this group?
Very happy to. I was born 1895.
When is your birthday?
September the 26th.
So you'll be 85 this
That's
year.
right.
Holy Toledo.
Toledo was right.
You look wonderful.
Well, thank you.
What are you doing? What are you doing these days, George?
I don't do anything. I'm an ambassador of goodwill to the Riviera Hotel in Las Vegas.
But you do go to an office every day and function
Yes.
in an office here.
Yeah, I sit there and people walk by and they say, "Is that you?" And I say, "Yes."
Everyone loves commercials, and you've done a couple of commercials that there's a line from a deodorant commercial. Lay that line on us in the deodorant commercial. You know the one I'm talking about?
Oh, the one about in the prison?
Yeah.
Where I say this place could use a stick-up.
One line.
One line. Then I got one on that's on now.
You're in the back of a limo, I think.
Yeah, and I don't even know the girl that's sitting alongside me.
You just got in there and delivered another line.
That's all, and I said, tune it up. That's a big hit.
That's wonderful. Did you ever think 20 or 30 years ago that you'd be doing commercials and doing just one line?
No,
Did that ever occur to you?
No, I never could. I think they're great, the one-liners, because
wow.
you're in and out.
Yeah.
I don't know what the commercial is about. I've never seen it.
Or care. Were you a quick study when you were doing pictures?
Yes.
Some people are blessed with being able to look at a script and just, boom.
Yeah, I was a pretty quick study, but I didn't have too many lines.
Yeah,
because I always played the guy that, you know, with a gun or something like that. Yeah. After all, I was in 105 pictures, and I was killed 85 times. How far can you go, eh?
You were the original rat fake. But did you get the girl in many pictures? I know away from the pictures you got a lot of girls, George.
Well, yeah, I did pretty well that way, but no, not in the pictures. I always got killed.
I heard through the grapevine that everything Errol Flynn claimed you were really doing. Is that true, George?
I wouldn't know.
Too much of a gentleman to talk about.
Yeah, well, I never would discuss women, you know. That was something that was out of my ballpark.
That's wonderful.
I always put all the women on a pedestal.
But you went with some very beautiful women.
Yes.
Big, big stars.
Yes.
Can we name just a few of the ladies you dated?
You name them.
Carol Lombard?
Yes.
Betty Grable?
Yes.
Look at this. I'm batting 1,000. Only mentioned 2 people.
Marlene Dietrich.
Marlene Dietrich?
Yeah.
Didn't you have to do something to her in a movie one time? George, you've always been a perfect gentleman, and he meant what he said about ladies. He respects them. But they wanted you to clout her in a picture, didn't they?
Yeah, they wanted me to hit her, and I said, well, I don't like to hit women. I never would do it in reality or real life. And, of course, they said, well, you must and must. And she came to me and says, George, you got to hit me. I says, no. So finally went on for a couple of days, and I finally did hit her. And she had a line where she was said she was hit harder. But she twisted the line. She says, I've never been hit harder than that in my life.
Didn't you knock her down and she
yes,
broke up?
She broke her ankle.
That one of those famous legs.
Yeah.
Holy Toledo.
Well, you know, I was a phony prize fighter for a while.
No, now listen, Jimmy Cagney, when I interviewed Jimmy Cagney, I said something to the effect that you were a very tough kid. And he said, listen, let me tell you who is really tough. And he didn't say was, he said is. He said, one time I was fooling around with George Raft, and he said, I took my hand back, and George said, Jim, you'd be sitting on the floor by the time you got that thing cocked.
That's right.
Because fighters hit you right, boom, straight on. They don't draw them back, you know.
Well, what could a guy do who had no education? So I tried to be a prize fighter. I tried to be a ball player. I was a dancer. And how I got in pictures, I don't know.
How did you get in pictures?
They picked me up.
Who picked you up?
A fellow named Roland Brown.
Where were you? In Roseland Ballroom or one of those places?
No, I was, I had just came back from England, and I came to California because I had played here in vaudeville.
I see.
So I come out here, and I was sitting in the Brown Derby, which is right here on Vine Street.
Sure. Famous
and
place.
the fella came over to me and said, well, I'd like you to go into a motion picture for me.
Just like that, not knowing what you could do?
And I says, well, I've never been a motion picture actor. I said, as a dancer. He says, yes, I know. He says, will you come down to the studio tomorrow? I said, I'd be very happy to. So I went down.
What studio was that, George?
The William Fox studio on Western Avenue.
Uh-huh.
And there was a man by the name of Gardner who was the casting director. And this fellow, Roland Brown, was the director and the writer of the picture. Spencer Tracy was the star of the picture.
Your first picture, Spencer.
So the wind-up, he says, well, I know George Raft. He was a dancer. He was famous in New York, working in all the places that he worked in.
Who said that, Tracy?
No, Gardner.
Oh, Gardner.
So, but we got people on the lot that we have under contract that we much rather put in the picture. So they kept arguing back and forth, and I says, look, wait a minute. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll go in, I'll do what you want me to do, and if my work is satisfactory, you make some arrangements to pay me. If it isn't satisfactory, you don't owe me anything. And I was the first one on the screen to say I had touched my handkerchief and my hat and said, this town isn't big enough for both of us. One of us has to leave.
You winged that line? You
Yeah.
ad-libbed that line?
Yeah. So they called me.
Who were you saying it to at the time? Tracy, was it?
No, Leon Ames, who later did...
Did the drunk act? He was the perennial drunk, wasn't he?
No, he was the guy that did some television.
Oh, Leon Ames was a Ford dealer here for a while,
That's
wasn't
right.
he?
And Bazooka Bob Burns.
For God.
And they all played gangsters. See, and I played Tracy's bodyguard in the picture.
You know who I was thinking of who played the perennial drunk? Leon Errol.
Leon Errol.
Remember how wonderful he was with those rubbery legs? But you actually said this town
isn't big enough for both of us.
And what did you do with your handkerchief?
I touched my handkerchief and touched my hat and left.
And that did it, a whole career from there.
And from there
do you remember what they paid you, George, for that first stint?
$150 a week.
That was a ton of money in those days, wasn't it?
No, I
No?
don't know.
You had made more in vaudeville?
Oh, yeah. I made more as a dancer. I worked in 4 different places in a day.
Were you a self-taught dancer, or
Yes,
did people...
I watched them up in Harlem. I was never a good dancer.
Oh, no, wait a minute.
No, I was a stylist.
Well, that's better.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I first introduced the French tango in America.
Where did you learn it?
Just, I was in France when I was there, and I watched people dance, and I sort of introduced it, and I introduced a dance in a picture called Bolero.
Is that the picture where they wanted to, you were with Carol Lombard, and they wanted to kill you while you were dancing with her? And
No, that was the other one, rumba. I did the rumba before it was popular. 10 years before, I didn't know what I was doing.
How did that happen?
I don't know. I just thought of the different things, that was all.
A rumba is just a takeoff on the two-step anyway, isn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't it?
well, it's...
What they call a lindy today. We used to call it a
1, 2,
lindy.
3, 4, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And, of course, I was in Cuba, and watching the Cubans do, you know, rumba dancing, it's just sensational. You know, they don't move here, don't move there. It's just their backside.
The hip,
Just,
the hip
they
story.
keep
Yeah,
going.
dig you. Boy, it's nice.
And I learned how to dance up in Harlem, watching them dance.
You got one of those rumbas left in you like the Cubans?
No.
No.
I got emphysema.
I know. Tell the story about the little chorus girl who came to you and was out of money, and you were known for a guy who helped struggling actors. You had a lot of compassion and still have.
Well, I don't know. If somebody comes to you and needs help, you give it to them.
And she came to you and had no money, little chorus
money.
girl?
Yeah, and I helped her. So it's all right.
What'd you give her, George?
300.
You remember who she was?
No.
We know who it was.
Yeah?
You don't want to tell it. You got too much class, huh?
No.
Would it bother you if I told? You don't want me to
Yeah,
tell her.
don't
Okay, I won't tell. Very important lady. He helped.
Yeah.
Did you date her too, George?
No.
You know,
She became very famous, didn't she?
Oh, and how? And how? The biggest name I know in television. You're quite a guy. You really are. Who's your favorite guy that you work with in pictures of all the people you work with so many
Oh.
super jobs?
I think Cagney, Muni, Tracy.
Oh.
I worked with so many Academy Award winners. They all won the award, not me.
Were you ever nominated, George?
Yeah, I was nominated. I ran fourth.
Can you find out in the top 5 where you
Well,
placed?
I know I was fourth.
Out of the money.
Out of the
money.
yeah.
Well,
I was your son-in-law. I mean, he bets on all the winners. With you.
Oh, yes. My
Yes.
son-in-law came out. I go to the track about once a year. I saw George out there. My son-in-law is into computers and everything, and he's a very deep, very bright kid, and he's on the dean's list at Wharton. And he took a racing form. I know from nothing in a race. I just look at the horses, and if the horse looks like it's got a few breaths left, I say, well, I like the way he looks, and I like those colors and the name. If it's a name I called one of my kids or something, I'll bet on that horse. My son-in-law said, Dad, that's not the way it works. He said he picked 4 straight winners
right.
the day I was with George, and I didn't catch on until about the 3rd one.
Oh, I bet on the third one.
Did
when
you
I met
bet?
Yeah.
Did you really?
Well, certainly.
Am I in on some of the action, Joe? No.
Yeah, anytime.
George, in my book, as a movie star, you're a 10.
A 10.
A 10, yeah. More with the Super Seniors right up the way.
All right, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Through the courtesy and confirmation of the Dime Savings Bank in New York, I'm going to offer the most sensational giveaway. All you got to do is introduce a friend to the Dime who'll buy a 26-week certificate for $10,000 to $35,000 or more, and you pick up one of these wonderful gifts. You say you're not satisfied. You say you want more. Okay, we're going to give your friend a gift, too, plus the highest interest rates. So, friends, rush right down to the Dime, and the next time you see me, you're going to thank me.
It's a lot cheaper to go Greyhound.
Go Greyhound from any of the 23 suburban stations in the metro area, including 7 on Long Island.
Here's something that's always, I wanted to ask George about, and this, I thought that the first time I asked you that you were kidding me about it. Of all the 105 movies this man has made, he has never seen himself on the screen. Does that still go?
Yes.
What happens if you're passing a TV set and someone has one of your movies on? You just turn your
Oh,
back?
I just keep going.
I want to tell you something, George. You're terrific in movies.
No.
You ought to look at them sometime. From the first day, you've never seen any rushes?
No, I made a test many years ago when I was a dancer, and guy rushed me up. At that time, they put red in your eyes and made up your hands. And, of course, Harry Richmond, God rest his soul in peace, made a test at the same time. And he looked like a black man on the screen. I said, oh, my God, what am I going to look like, you know? So I said, that's me, and they said, yes. And I would never look at myself after that.
And when you became a big star, you still weren't even curious
no.
to look at?
Because, as I said, everybody was better than me, so I just went along with it.
Oh, you got to see him. I want to tell you something.
Yeah.
Sometime you got to check in because you were something else on that screen.
I know they rerun one of them on Sunset Boulevard or something, Scarface.
Yeah.
And people said, will you come down and see it? I said, no, won't go near the street. I'd be too frightened. I mean, the way I look now, I was a young guy at that time. That was 1928.
I got news. You look pretty doggone good right now, my friend. Doesn't he?
Shorter.
Well, I know what is said about a lot of people, but my first guest is